Steelers fans, today we are talking about players for the Pittsburgh Steelers to avoid in the 2023 offseason. 5 free agents and 5 draft prospects that I think the Steelers should steer clear of. But before we get into today's action, do me a favor, click that subscribe button right now if you love the Pittsburgh Steelers. We try to provide you guys comprehensive news and rumors content for you all offseason long. There's going to be changes during the offseason, guys. There's going to be signings. There's going to be cuts. There might be a trade. If any of that stuff breaks, we are going to have breaking news coverage for you here on the channel. So if you don't want to miss anything that the Steelers do this offseason, go ahead and click that subscribe button right now. So first up here, I'm going to be talking about 5 free agents for the Steelers to avoid, and then I'll have my top 5 list for draft prospects for the Steelers to avoid later in the show. But let's just jump right into my list of free agents. Number 1 on my list is Tremaine Edmunds. Now, Tremaine Edmunds, fantastic player, one of the best linebackers in the National Football League. Obviously, he has the family connection with Terrell Edmunds. The Steelers are a family-type organization. It makes sense why they would want to bring him in. He is 6'5", 250, one of the best athletes at the position, can run really, really fast, has really developed into one of the best linebackers in the National Football League. But the problem with Tremaine is that he's just going to be way too expensive. According to Pro Football Focus, his expected market value right now is at 4 years, $17.5 million per season. So, I mean, right now, if the Steelers signed Tremaine Edmunds for this amount, and it would be more than if they traded for Jalen Ramsey. Right, Jalen Ramsey would be a $17 million cap hit if they traded for him. If they signed Tremaine Edmunds to this contract, it would be $500,000 more per year for an inside linebacker as compared to a superstar corner. This is just not worth it, in my opinion. I think that he's just going to price himself out of Pittsburgh. Number 2 on my list is Jakobi Meyers, the wide receiver from New England. And again, a lot of these players on this list are players that I do like, but I just don't think that it's going to make sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers to go and get a receiver that's going to be this expensive. You look at Jakobi Meyers, really good route runner, pretty decent hands, had a really good season with the New England Patriots this past year. He's probably the top wide receiver free agent as of right now. And right now, Pro Football Focus expects the contract that he's going to get to be $16 million per season for 4 years. Again, that's pricing himself out of Pittsburgh. The Steelers should not, absolutely not, get another expensive wide receiver. If they're going to add another receiver, it should be for a cheaper option in the slot, or just go draft somebody in the later rounds during the NFL draft. I think that right now they're in a pretty decent spot, right? You got Deontay Johnson, you got George Pickens, and you got Calvin Austin III coming back next year. I think they probably want to add one more piece just so they can have some depth, just so they can have some different variations in their sets, that sort of thing. I think they will add a receiver at some point during this offseason, but adding a guy like Meyers that's going to cost $16 million per season, I just don't think is a good move. So give me a name in the comment section right now. Who's a player that you do not want the Steelers to sign in free agency? It can be any position, any player. Let me know right now in the comment section who's your player that you don't want the Steelers to sign. This is the pinned comment on today's video. So whenever you get an ad break here on the show, go into the comment section, find that pinned comment. It'll be right there at the top and answer today's question. Third on my list, Jermaine Pratt. And again, another player that I like. I really do like Jermaine Pratt. He is big. He is fast. He graded as one of the best inside linebackers in football this past year. But I just don't think that it's a good idea for the Steelers to go get a guy like this. I think that he's a good fit for what the Steelers want to do. Again, I just think that his price is going to be too high, right? $10.6 million for over 4 years is going to be his asking price, most likely here. I think that's a bit too high. I just don't think that that's the type of move the Steelers want to make, especially at that kind of position. I think that if they're going to spend that kind of money, it's going to be at a different position than inside linebacker. Number 4 on my list is Marcus Peters, and I am not a big fan of Marcus Peters. He has been rumored to the Steelers in recent weeks, but to me, he is a true press man corner through and through, and the Steelers don't really run that kind of defense. They run a lot of cover 6, a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 3 zone, and I mean, Marcus Peters is most comfortable in like a cover 2 man, press man system. and that's not the Steelers, right? He gets beat in man coverage way too often. He gets really, really aggressive, and there's pros and cons to being an aggressive corner, right? The pros is that you get lots of interceptions. Look at Trayvon Diggs. But then, the downside to that is you get burned deep down the field. That was the only issue that the Steelers defense had last season, was giving up big passing plays to explosive offenses. I don't think Marcus Peters helps that problem whatsoever. The Steelers should steer clear of Marcus Peters, in my opinion. And then also, this isn't the big thing for me, but just so you know, his expected market value is going to be $7 million per season over 2 years, which I think is a pretty decent asking price for a guy like Marcus Peters. I just don't think it's a good fit for the Steelers. Number 5 on my list, final free agent here, another inside linebacker, TJ Edwards. And with the signing of Roquan Smith, $20 million per season for an inside linebacker, that means some of these top free agent linebackers are going to be asking for a lot of money, and I just don't think they're really worth it, guys. TJ Edwards, really, really good player, played in the Super Bowl, is one of the best linebackers on the Philadelphia Eagles. He was part of that fantastic front seven that the Philadelphia Eagles have. It's really tough to run on these guys. TJ Edwards is a big reason why for that. Almost 160 tackles this past year. Really good player. But the thing is, he's going to make over $13 million over 3 years, most likely, according to Pro Football Focus's projection. And that's just, again, that's too much for an inside linebacker, if you ask me, if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. Go get a cheaper option. Go draft somebody. Maybe bring back Robert Spillane on a cheap deal, like a $2 million deal, someone that knows the defense. I just don't think that at the inside linebacker position, I don't think that's a very high-value position. Don't spend this kind of money because the Steelers' defense is already already too expensive as it is. So go ahead and go on to social media right now. If you got a draft question, got a free agency question about the Steelers, go ahead and ask me on Twitter or Instagram. Go interact with me on Twitter at Jack_Sperry. If you give me a follow on Twitter, I will give you a shout out on our next live show. And then I'm on Instagram at sparedog.football. So now let's get into the draft prospects that I think the Pittsburgh Steelers should avoid going into 2023. First up on my list is Trenton Simpson. Now, I think Trenton Simpson is a decent prospect, okay? I'm not saying that he sucks, that he's going to be a bad player. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he's being overvalued right now as someone that could go late first round or early second round. I don't think he's that type of player. I don't think that his film is good enough to warrant that kind of high selection. I think that he's got really long arms. He's really big. He's fast. He's got all the tools that you look for, but his instincts, his reaction time, his ability to process information and really anticipate stuff as a defender just isn't there, in my opinion. I think that needs to be developed, and because of that, I have him a bit lower as a developmental piece at inside linebacker. Right now, he's kind of projected more in that late first, early second round because he's got those physical traits that people look for, but I think what it should be is late second, early third round. He should still be a day 2 pick, just because he's a really, really talented physical athlete. Like he's got great specs. He's going to really test well at the combine. I just don't think that the Steelers should invest one of those high draft picks in him. Next up on my list, Cody Mauch. And Cody Mauch's been getting a lot of praise here since the Senior Bowl. He doesn't have his 2 front teeth. We get it. He's a personality that people like, but he's pretty undersized for somebody that I don't think has the skill to be an offensive tackle, in my opinion, but also I don't think he has the size to be an inside or an interior offensive lineman. He's like 300 pounds right now, a little bit over that. It's just not enough to be an interior lineman. He just didn't have a lot of passing reps at NDSU, and at NDSU they have a ton of run. It's a run-heavy offense. I just don't think Cody Mauch is somebody. I think he's somebody that needs a little bit of development in that regard. He's going to have to be a tackle in the league. It's either tackle or bust, in my opinion. And because of that, I'm going to take him in the 3rd round. If he makes it to the 3rd round, sure, why not take him? But I think the Steelers are looking for that day 1 ready kind of guy to come in and play like on day 1, like a Darnell Wright at right tackle or a Broderick Jones at left tackle in round 1. I just don't think Cody Mauch is what the Steelers are looking for at the position. Number 3 on my list is Eli Ricks, the cornerback out of Alabama, and this is one of the most divisive players in the entire NFL draft this season, okay? He's got everything that you look for, right? He's 6'2", 190 pounds. He's got long arms. He's probably going to run really fast at the combine. He's got all the stuff that you look for in a number 1 cornerback. The problem is, in college, he was very Jekyll and Hyde with his consistency, right? He showed some really great stuff on tape towards the end of the season here. It's probably why he's going to get taken on day 2 because he really balled out. But before that, he was not very good whatsoever. So it's like he's very boom or bust. Right now, his draft value is about a second-round pick, and I agree with that. I think he probably should go in round 2, but when it pertains to the Steelers, I think they want to get somebody that's more of a sure thing. That's someone that's not as much of a boom or bust prospect, because that's what Eli Ricks is. He's either going to be a really, really good player or he's going to be absolutely terrible. If I'm the Steelers, I don't want to take that risk. I want to go out and get a guy that I am fairly certain, like 90% certain, is going to be a great player, like an Emmanuel Forbes in the second round, or like a Christian Gonzalez or a Cam Smith or a Joey Porter Jr. in the first round. I want to get somebody that I feel really confident that down the road they're going to be a good player. So let me know in the comment section what you think of Eli Ricks. I can't wait to see what you guys say. Is he a boom prospect, or is he going to be a bust in this year's NFL draft? Type boom in all caps if you think he's going to be a great player, or type bust if you don't. Next on my list, Jackson Smith-Njigba, big name. I think that, once again, this is another example of a player that I like. I think Jackson Smith-Njigba is a good player. You take a look at him, he's 6'1", 200 pounds. I mean, the Rose Bowl game, not this past Rose Bowl, but 2 years ago when he played in the Rose Bowl, it might have been the greatest wide receiver performance of all time in the Rose Bowl. Like, it was absolutely incredible for a receiver to do that much in one game. And, this year he dealt with injuries. It's going to be interesting to see how he tests at the combine. I think that he's a good prospect. I think he's probably a first rounder, which is what most people project him as. But when it comes to the Steelers, I don't think you want to invest in a first round wide receiver unless that wide receiver has a special connection with Kenny Pickett, like a Jordan Addison. And even then, I would probably go left tackle or cornerback. When it comes to the wide receivers in this draft, Jackson Smith-Njigba, somebody that might run in the 4.5, someone that doesn't have great long speed. He might be a great fit for somebody else. I just don't think he's a great fit for the Steelers, especially in round 1. And finally, another inside linebacker prospect here, Henry To'oTo'o. I took him in my first ever Steelers mock draft. But the more that I watch To'oTo'o on film, the less I think that he's going to be a true NFL player. I think that his overall play strength isn't that great right now. I just think that you need somebody that's going to be a bit more of a bruiser. Somebody, To'oTo'o is great when it comes to going out in coverage, when it comes to pass coverage, but when it comes to filling gaps in the run game, when it comes to holding blocks, right? When it comes to sealing lanes in the run game, he's just not very strong. He gets bullied a ton, and he's going to have to get a lot stronger if he's going to be a good NFL player, in my opinion. I think there's other stronger candidates out there for the Steelers to pick in the middle rounds. I think that there are some good developmental prospects, like a Drew Sanders. I think that Noah Sewell is a good, maybe early day 3 pick, but late 3rd round, day 3 is what his current draft value is, and I think that's about right. When you look at the Steelers situation, you got Mark Robinson, who you hope is going to be a really good player in the future. The Steelers don't need another undersized inside linebacker. Now, To'oTo'o is 6'2", which is okay, but it's certainly not great for a linebacker. He's only 220-something pounds. Like, that's not good enough to be and he just doesn't have the play strength, in my opinion. So, another undersized inside linebacker. Mike Robinson is somebody that I think the Steelers have a plan for. I think that he showed some good things in his rookie season when he was on the field. I think that they're hoping that he develops, but like I said, guys, he's 5'11", 235, so he's undersized. So I think the Steelers are going to be looking to get another linebacker in this year's draft class that's a bit bigger, that's a bit stronger, that can play that bruiser role as an inside linebacker. I just don't think To'oTo'o is that type of guy. So now let me know in the comment section. Before you told me a free agent that you don't want, now tell me a draft prospect that you absolutely do not want the Steelers to draft, that you think is going to be a bust, someone that's a terrible fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know in the comment section right now. That'll be it for me today, Yinzers. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.